This car I'm working on here is a Ford GT Cobra, Australian made, and I believe this one is the Bathurst model. So they said it was the 90 series or something like that. So there was only around 30 of them made, and yeah, supposedly only around 10 of them left. So a very rare and awesome old car. It was going this white. Someone had a crack at painting the engine bay, but it didn't really look so good. So we sanded it back, and we're going to give it another coat of white in clear over base this time. And it's got those GT stripes, the blue stripes running down the center of the entire car, and then they come across around here too, right down the side. So it's going to look pretty awesome when it's done. Yesterday I came in, did my first day on it, and I mainly actually focused on that roof. I blocked the entire thing down. There was a few spots I had to redo some repairs and got a few coats of primer back over it. It's looking quite nice now. Probably give it a bit more of a block down again, and hopefully today we'll be able to get some paint on the door jambs. We've got to paint the door jambs first and then hang the doors on so that we make sure we get those lines straight. What we've been doing this morning is actually sorting out a compressor. We went down south of the river, picked up this big boy because we were sort of battling on with these smaller compressors and they really weren't doing it. So I'm actually just helping a guy out that has actually been watching my videos lately, and when he heard that I was coming back to Perth, he said, "Oh man, I've got a shop, should come up and do a bit of work with us." And I'm starting a new job next Monday, but I said, yeah, why not? I'll come down and give you a hand on this in between. So this is the little compressor we've got. It's really struggling. I mean, I get people ask me about compressors, and it sounds very simple, but the bigger the better, you know. If you go and buy something like that and you want to do a full respray in it, you'll probably be stopping and starting. You might get, say, 3 panels done, and then you'll have to stop and then continue on to another 3 panels, and you'll spend, say, $800 on something like that, and you'll be like, you know what, it's not enough. You have to go and either buy another one or a bigger one. So it's one of those things, you've got to weigh up how much use are you going to get out of it and how much can you warrant spending on it. You know, like this one over here is probably another $800 to $1,000 compressor, but it's been overheating on him and just playing up because it's a cheap Chinese. Whereas we actually found this on the classified site Gumtree, $800. I think he said it was Australian made, but I can just tell by looking at that that's a quality compressor. It's something like 10 horsepower, so it's 7.5 kilowatts, which is around 10 horsepower. Don't have a CFM on it, but I mean, I've never really had to be an expert on compressors. I've never had to look into them that much. I've always worked in shops usually that have them, and all I would need to do, as soon as I looked in at that compressor, I knew we'll have air problems. It's as simple as that. You just buy on size and price, I guess. It does sound quite simple, but the more you pay, the better you're gonna get, and that's true for most things in life. But yeah, so there's still a little bit of a slight ripple through there on that roof. But yeah, all in all, it's coming along nice. Like, I think it was actually raced in Bathurst, from what one of the guys was saying. So it's the owners supposedly owned it for about 15 years, quite some time. But yeah, he's pretty excited to get it on the road. What have we got? There's WB, what are they, station wagon or panel van, sorry, under there. This is the bonnet for the XC. Got a big scoop that sits over there. It's a EH Holden by the looks of it. Yeah, I think that's what it is. I think that brown wagon is a HX or a HZ or something like that. Could even be a HQ. I'm not an expert on those models, but yeah, mid-70s old Holden. anyway, this is a bit of an update as to what's going on. So yeah, I'm starting at this place on Monday, and they use the Chromax Pro water-based system as well. So they seem like a pretty good bunch of people. So yeah, that should work out fine. But I'm definitely much happier to be back in Perth. I find that the people over here are a bit more down to earth, a bit more just everyday, working class type person. So I found myself surrounded with some sort of snobby ass upper middle class people there in Melbourne. And yeah, after going back to Melbourne, I realised, well, Perth is actually better than Melbourne, and I wasn't really missing out on much, because prior to moving back to Melbourne, when you're over here in Perth, you do sort of feel like you're isolated, because it is quite a distance away. It's 3,400 kilometres by road, 3 to 4 day road trip, or a 4-hour flight. Yeah, you do feel a little bit isolated from that side of Australia, but yeah, after going back, I'm like, you know what, I'm not missing out on much really. Like, yeah, it's actually, funnily enough, cheaper to live over here, and wages are higher. So at a time in my life when I'm trying to get ahead in life, I don't see why I would live in a more expensive place where wages are lower. So yeah, and I get to work on some pretty cool old cars over this side. It just seems, I seem to just get attracted through the people I meet, and yeah, seems to be a big scene for these classic cars here in Perth. There's lots of people with lots of money and lots of car nuts, so it makes sense for me. And I guess as far as the YouTube channel goes, you guys have probably got some better content when I am living over here too. So, and I also find myself a little bit more focused on my YouTube channel, whereas when I was over there in Melbourne, I was just just doing a bit of hanging out with mates and slowly starting to have a few drinks here and there again, and just losing focus on my goal to be the best painter on YouTube, and provide you guys with lots of quality content and also get ahead in life. So, I just bought one of my guns down here today. I was telling you guys in a couple of other videos that if you bought one of these ANIs, you could put a DeVilbiss pot on it, and that's exactly what I did. I just didn't feel like stuffing around with the average threads they got, so I just put that pot on that, and that's what I'm going to use to paint inside these door jambs. We've got the new DeVilbiss air regulator on there too. So I was actually speaking to Chris from Spray Guns Direct about those pots from the ANI spray guns, and the guys that actually build them in Italy are well aware of the poor quality on those pots, and they tell me that they're actually looking into upgrading and getting a better quality pot, because as they say, it's the one thing letting down an otherwise great value and quality spray gun. This video here was actually originally just going to be a bit of a raw video, but I put it into the video editor and I decided why not make a bit of a slightly edited video for you guys. So this is where I'm up to on the project at the moment. I actually just went in yesterday and painted all the insides. So did the engine bay, did the door jambs, did the insides of the doors, bonnet, boot lid, and also the inside of that bonnet scoop too. Now we've got to do the blue on the sill panels because the sill panel is blue, and it also comes up inside the door jamb a little bit. So I just sprayed the blue over that, left it for say 45 minutes, had a bit of lunch, came back in and then masked it up, and also did the blue across this firewall. We've actually got some printouts, some photos off the internet that we were actually able to go off and make sure we get those masking lines right. Yeah, there was a couple of little bits on the insides of the door jambs that, because I put some seam sealer on it the previous night, knowing that I was actually going to have to mask off that seam sealer, but it actually didn't really stick. I actually lost a little bit of adhesion when I was masking off it, so all I had to do is just get a touch-up brush and finally touch it up. Being inside the door jamb and over a bit of sealer, I was able to get away with it, but there was one little spot that I'm going to have to retouch up because I had a little bit of the white start to bleed through with the blue, so it actually turned into a milky sort of blue rather than a white colour. So obviously I did leave all of that base coat stage out and the masking stage out of this video because, as I mentioned before, I wasn't really planning on making this video at the start, but it's a Sunday morning.
what better thing to do than make a bit of a YouTube video for you guys, just like the old-fashioned gunman that was living over here in Perth. And I am much happier to be back over here. I feel like it's where the gunman belongs, and yeah, it's a great place to be. Beautiful weather. It's not overly populated. I was driving to this place the other day, and I kid you not, I was driving down the freeway or the highway, and I was just laughing. I was actually laughing. I'm like, man, this is 8:30 in the morning and there is no traffic, you know. If that was in Melbourne, it would have taken me 2 hours to do what is a 20-minute drive over here in Perth. So many reasons that Perth is actually a better city in my opinion anyway, but yeah, that's not what this video is about. It's more about the painting. So I'm using the ANI F150 with a 1.3mm fluid tip on it. Spray Guns Direct were very kind to send out 3 of these, so they sent the 1.2, 3 and 4mm setups out for me, and I decided, because I'm painting solvent base and the clear coat, 1.3 would probably be the correct setup for it, and yeah, it turns out it's been great. I do have the 1.4mm, as I just said before, and I think I'll probably use that the same as what I was using it for in the previous shop, and that was for the base coat blender, or even just water-based base coats, because the 1.4 obviously gets that little bit more fluid out, and you really do have to keep those water-based base coats quite wet. The main issue we're having at the moment is just getting a little bit of water through the air lines. Now for 99% of this job it was fine, but when I was actually painting the inside of that bonnet, I got a few water drips sort of coming out the fitting of the airline, and yeah, made a bit of a mess. We might have to do a bit of a spot up later on, but Ricky's onto it and we're going to organise some sort of a better water filtration system anyway. Now I do apologise, in this next clip I referred to it as an XB GT, but it's an XC. So this XB GT Cobra is coming along quite nicely. We got all the insides painted today. It's in snow white, and I'll go out and show you guys the paint can in a minute, and we'll have a look at the name of the blue. I can't remember it offhand, but I decided to paint the hinges at the same time, that way they can come out of the way, and paint the sill panel, because we jacked it up, and that way I can get right up under there without having to worry about that later on when we do the body. So that's good to have that out the way. Had the masking line through there where I put the seam sealer. Actually started to lift just only on the seam sealer edges when I unmasked the blue, so I had to do a couple of little touch-ups, and you can see there when I touched up some of the white, the blue underneath it actually started bleeding through, so it's not a real big issue to do a bit of a touch-up there. I won't even have to spray that, I wouldn't imagine. But yeah, it's all going quite well. The engine bay and inside all those bolt-on panels had actually been done before, but they were looking pretty crappy. Sort of a low gloss level, and yeah, just not a very nice finish overall. So looking quite nice now. Just use a solvent base. Dulux is actually the name of the paint. So Dulux Automotive, which is supposedly exactly the same as PPG. I'll go and give you guys a look at the paint we use and call that a video. So this is the clear coat we used, a HS Clear. We actually heated that up, we got the thermometer into it, and it was about 40 degrees. And the blue colour here is called Bold Blue. 440 or 480 is the paint code. So the spray booth actually did quite well, considering. I've seen a few jobs that the other guys did in here and they were absolute garbage. It had me worrying a little bit, because originally you can still see a few little holes in it, but Ricky's gone around and he's done quite a good job. He's obviously changed all the filters out, up here, up there, down the back as well. And yeah, we've just obviously wet the floor down to help keep a bit of the dust down. If any of the overspray hits the floor, it's going to stay there rather than recirculating and coming back up. So it's got negative pressure, this booth. When I'm painting, the door will actually want to suck in like that, and you can see that it doesn't have a bolt or a lock on it, so I had to put that up there. And another thing is that there isn't a on-off switch for the fan inside the booth. I believe they're a little bit worried about an ignition point, sort of a spark area when you're dealing with your paint.
So I've actually had to get Ricky out there, and every time I've finished painting or I need to go back out of the booth, I've got him to flick the booth off for me so that when I go out, I'm not opening that up and all that crap outside is just going to suck straight onto my nice clean paint job. But yeah, I'm actually quite impressed with it. We nutted it out basically. Another issue we had was with the compressor not being, look, we did know about it, and you know, I was actually, the first time I said to Ricky, who was at the door, I was sort of trying to do some sign language telling him that there was water coming out of the airline, so to drain the tank, I was just like, he was either going to come back with a beer or a bourbon or drain the tank, and he was onto it, he drained the tank. So a quick drink. Just give the lads a bit of a look at the compressor. So yeah, we've got a quite decent length airline on it, and we're going to organise some sort of a better water filtration that's not really doing much. And yeah, Ricky was out here just draining that. But yeah, it's a decent compressor, but I just think it's taking too long before it cuts back in. It's coming down under 400 before it actually turns back on. So we've got an electrician who actually owns this place, and hopefully we can get him to get it to cut back in earlier, because I was forever yeah, having to adjust my pressure on the gun because it was fluctuating from high to low. Not a major big deal, but yeah. Anyway, I'll call that a vid. Catch us in the next one. Gunman out.